Hey guys, so now we're moving on to the king of all positions in Jiu-Jitsu. This is the back. And we're going to talk a little bit and allude to what we talked about in the last video where we were talking about the escaping the back, and we're going to reverse engineer that to talk about back control and concepts. And then we're going to go into what might be your staple bread and butter attack from the back that has one of the highest percentage finishing rates in all the sport. So what we're going to talk about first is we'll have Adam sit in front here, and then we're going to talk about what we have when we have the back. So typically when you have the back, you have hooks inside of your partner's thighs, and then you also have some configuration of your arms over their body. There's many different ones. There's chest lock under here. You could have both arms over, or you could have a seatbelt. You're typically going to use a seatbelt, and we'll talk about why. So there's two ways that your partner is primarily going to escape the back. And remember, like we talked about, we can never let their elbows hit the floor. If their elbows hit the floor, they've gotten out of your back control. So everything is about making sure that they can't either rotate up or get their elbow to the mat. So when we go down onto the floor, if we scoot this way a little bit, we go onto the floor, Adam's two main ways that he's going to escape is either to he's gonna get off of this hook and he's gonna start bringing his body to the floor and then bringing his elbow to the mat like we talked about, right? Or, especially if they're a wrestler type, they'll prefer this one. He's going to try to rotate up and turtle out. So he tries to rotate up and turtle out of my back control. So we always have to have a form of diagonal control. This is great. Sometimes we won't even have a top hook, but we can still have diagonal control. Why? Because we can grab his arm and we can also we can hook onto his hip here. So these keep him from turtling. He tries to turtle with the wrist grip. He can't run up and turtle, and he can't get away in that direction, and he also can't bring his hips out because my hook is keeping him here. So he always wants to beat my hook or beat my hand and go up into a turtle or bring his hips out to the mat. So we could have no top hook, but having an additional top hook will even help us even further with the turtle. This keeps him in this direction. He can't bring his hips over that way. And then additionally, our arm here will help keep him from bringing his back to the mat. So this hook and this arm keep him from bringing his back to the mat and getting his elbow to the floor and getting out of the back control. So when we get into this position, we'll talk about how we want to configure our bodies to make sure that we have the best chance of keeping our partner here. So again, we can have two butterfly hooks like this, or sorry, not butterfly, back control hooks. We can have two back control hooks, or what's even better, to restrict my partner's hips from turning either that way or turtling up, is to take your bottom leg all the way across the hips, put your foot in the crook of your knee, and then back heel. This is called a body triangle. This is a great way to make sure that you have additional restriction of the hips to keep them in alignment with your chest and your hips. We're always trying to keep them in alignment. We want a flush connection of our chest to their back at all times. The second thing we always want to think about is having our chin close to theirs. So I want to be like I'm talking to Adam in his ear. I want to have my face really close and on the opposite side of my strangle arm. So whatever arm is my strangle arm, which means it'll be the one on top, right? We're not going to strangle him through here. He can bring his elbow down, and I'll never get my hand across. The mechanics wouldn't work anyway. So it's always going to be the arm that's over the shoulder. So there's a reason we use the seatbelt. We can strangle, and we have some degree of control, right? If I use the chest lock, then this is great control, but I have no ability to strangle at him. Both of my arms are under his arms. If I go here, there is a variation where we can use this, and I talk about it in the instructional that's in the bio, but for now, we're not going to get into it. If you want to check that out, go ahead and grab that at the link. But we can try to use these, except the problem is now we don't have any ability to keep him from turning, inside of the lock, right? The body triangle will help us a little bit with that, but sometimes it's not enough. So that's why a lot of times we're going to use a seatbelt. Now we have the best of both worlds. I can strangle my partner, and I can also keep him from rotating up, right? So one of the ways that we want to start looking at the back is to always keep our chin here and our strangle arm on the opposite side. If my chin and my strangle arm are ever on the same side, I will never be able to strangle at him. This angle is completely wrong, and he can start to escape and take advantage of that. So people will try to fight you at the head. He'll try to move his head up this way and past and try to change my angle. Or if I had my arms in this direction or on the opposite side, he'll try to bring his head the other way too and try to go back down. So what we want to do is make sure we have this connection, and when we do get strangles, we'll create a complete circuit. We'll have a circle around the neck like this, where my chin is on my own hand. And so now that we've got basics down, we're gonna be talking about how we're actually gonna do our first submission out of here. And one of the best ways that we can do this is through trapping a hand. So this is called a straitjacket system. The straitjacket system, it's gonna look a little bit complicated at first, but it's not that complicated once you get the hang of it. So what we're looking to do is always give Adam too many things to think about at once. We can't ever just focus on keeping him here, and we can't ever just focus on trying to get our arm underneath of his neck, right? So what we want to do is we always want to be working to maintain the back control as well as threatening him with a strangle. If all I'm doing is maintaining back control and I'm not threatening Adam, then he has all the time in the world to just try to get out of the back control and start moving my arms around, getting out of my hooks, and so on. So when we're doing this, we need a combination of threatening him where he has to contend with my hands as well as maintaining our back control, okay? So that's what makes the back complicated. Nothing on the back is that complicated. It's the fact that we have to do it all at once, right? And that's where all the practice comes in. So when we get into this position, I want to keep my head in the proper position. We're going to be on the underhook side for this submission. It's going to be much easier on this side, and I can explain to you in further videos, but for now, just understand we want to be on the underhook side. So my arm under his arm is going to be on bottom. And then my head is going to make sure his head doesn't get to the floor. Adam will be fighting me if I have lazy head position to bring it down here, and now he can start bringing his elbow to the mat and getting out, right? And also it messes up my strangle. So even if he just got here and he didn't get out, I can't, even if I get my arm around, it won't matter. So we always want to make sure we have our chin on his shoulder, keeping him in proper position. Now we're going to hold on to his wrist. He tries to extend his wrist, or sorry, hold on to the meat of his palm. He tries to extend his hand. He can't get away easily. Now what we're going to do is throw an arm over his neck. He goes ahead and tries to take it down with his one remaining hand. I have this hand, so he has to use this one. Now what that does is, since he opted to fight this hand, it gives me access to this hand. I can take this one off, and now I'm holding on to this hand. And at this point, Adam has a choice. I'm going to try and threaten the strangle again. If he comes up and tries to grab it, I re-pummel and I grab this hand as well. So now I have both of his hands. He tries to move around in this situation. It's very difficult. He's being restrained. You can see why it's called the straitjacket system, right? So we get here. I'm holding on to both arms. And what I'm going to do is push this one down. And I'm going to open up my legs. And I'm just going to touch my foot to my hand. This is called proprioception. This is a sense and a skill that every human has. In complete darkness, you would be able to find your own hand with your foot. You can just touch your hand to your foot. And then you push the heel down. And you drag it slightly across the body, and now I lace with this outside leg on top. It's very important I put that leg on top, because now there's no daylight between Adam's arm, my leg, and his body, right? If I go the other way, if I tried to lace it like this, now there's a space here, Adam can take his arm back out. So what we're trying to do is make it so that he has no defensive hands to stop my strangle arm, and it's only his chin helping him, right? So when we get into this position, I put this one on top. I make sure he can't bring it back. And now I'm holding on to this wrist. This is the only hand he has left to fight me with, and I'm holding it here again at the palm. If I hold here, he can just extend and get out. Now he can potentially bring my hand back down with that, and I have to re-pummel. But if I'm holding at the palm, he tries to extend. It's very, very difficult. I can hold him very well with one hand. And now I'm going to try to bring my hand down. A lot of times, they're going to be bringing their chin to their chest because they don't want to get strangled, obviously. So what I'm going to do is take my thumb right here, and I'm going to insert it behind his ear, right behind his ear, and go along his jawline. And I'm going to just keep going underneath the jawline, until I get this part of my wrist underneath of it. And once I get that, I can lay my hand flat, and I just walk it. I finger walk until I get to his shoulder. I don't want to try and finger walk and come all the way up. It's harder, so I walk to his shoulder, and then I bring it up here. Now I put my chin over it. The reason I put my chin over it is because I want to take away Adam's ability to fight my hands. A good hand fighter will fight you at the knuckle line. If I put my chin on my hand, and then Adam tries to take my hand off by my wrist, he tries to take this arm off of his neck by my wrist, it won't matter. It's not strong enough. If he can grab my knuckles, he can pull it down. It doesn't matter how strong I am. It's very difficult to bring this back up when someone has you at the hand, at the end of the lever. So it's very, very important. It's a really good skill that most people don't use, to put your own chin on your hand. Now he can't grab my knuckles because my chin is covering it. So when I get into this position, all we have to do is finish at this point. And the way that we're going to do that is by coming up onto this elbow pulling this arm out, and then there's gonna be a second where since we let go of the arm, he's gonna try to bring it up and stop me, and I'm above him, so I'm gonna catch it. It's called a hidden hand, right? My hand's above him, he can't even see it, he tries to come up and grab it, I catch his hand, I put it here. Now all I have to do is take the moment to bring it back up. As soon as we let go, lace my hands into a figure four, so I grab my bicep, I put my other hand behind his head, and then I'm rotating. We're not pinching our elbows, and we're not pulling him. I'm rotating the strangle arm. So I'm pulling in this direction for the tap. So this little race is really important that you understand why this works. When I get here and he tries to reach up and grab my hand, I grab it, and now there's gonna be a race, but I'm always going to win because my hand is on top. Both of us are trying to reach this hand first when I let go. We go? I'm always gonna win this because my hand started closer, right? So I come back, and now we're just gonna bring our elbow out to the side, rotate, and finish him. So that's called the straitjacket system. You can replay it if that was a lot, but I want you guys to start understanding how to hand fight. The idea is to give him too many things to think about. If I go and try to strangle him and he doesn't try to take my hand down, it's gonna be very easy for me to trap his arm. And if he just worries about his arm getting trapped, it's very easy to strangle him. So that's the dilemma that we're kind of playing here. Again, if you guys like the body triangle, there are options to take both arms out and fish for the neck. You need to be a little bit more advanced for that, but that is included in the instructional if you guys want to check it out. We won't get into that today. But what we want to think about with the back control is his two main routes of escape, which is always turtling or bringing his hips to the mat to get his elbow free, right? And then we want to make sure we have proper head position. If you get those three things down, that will make it very difficult for people to get out of your back control. And the harder it is for them to get out, the longer you have to work to actually trap their arms and strangle them. So that finishes out all of our technique portion of this playlist. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that it clarifies some things for you guys as beginners, very new beginners in jiu-jitsu. This will take you very far if you master these fundamentals, and I think that you'll be very happy with your game if you start implementing them. If you want to take it even further and you feel like you've mastered these positions, go ahead and check out that link in bio to get your free mini instructional. We'll be going deeper into these positions. We'll be showing you things you haven't seen before. It'll really help out your game and elevate you to the next level beyond this one. So this is Eddie with Crash and Flow Jiu-Jitsu. I'll see you on the mats.